Welcome to Everyday Life. Thank you for joining our podcast, Conversations Over Coffee. My name is Jen.
And I'm Dagda.
And we're going to hit you with the explicit content warning right off the bat. This podcast does include adult situations and adult language from time to time.
I'm an angel. I never fucking cuss.
Okay. Anyways, you ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go.
There'll be none of that.
Always there will be some of that.
Any fucking way.
How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I got a lot accomplished before you got over here. So, it's not that often that I'm that far ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And that's great because you know what that means? That means I get video game time before I have to jump back into post creation and all that shit.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So, anyways.
I actually pre-ordered a video game the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, it's the fucking solo leveling.
I don't think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a big Korean, I don't remember the term for it. Basically, it's manga, so basically comic books.
Okay.
But the Korean version of it, I guess. Anyway, there's their comic book, then they made novels, and now they're making a video game of it. Mm-hmm. So, and I've listened to 3 of the novels. Oh. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, it's a lit RPG.
Of course.
Anyway, carrying on.
Is that going to be your first lit RPG game?
Yes, because I think they did a game for Sword Art Online. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first lit RPG video game, which is kind of funny.
And when's it supposed to be released? When's it supposed to drop out?
The end of the month.
Oh, so you'll have a review for everybody at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be just like little golden and be like, I can't make it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, obviously I re-listened to the episodes. Want to make sure I'm not like talking about, I can beat zombies with a horse, right? But
okay.
One of the things, and
anyway, carrying on.
I would cut off a horse leg after it's been half eaten and beat the zombies to death. Whoa. Anyways, honestly, so as I'm listening to stuff, I'm going, wait a minute. You'd made a comment about you were wondering about a horror character.
Okay.
And their origins, like if it was inspired by certain people. Okay. So we were talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay. And
you had said you wondered, because there was really a Count Dracula, and you were wondering if that inspired it. So I went.
I know that they are related, but yeah.
Sorta.
Yeah.
So I don't want to quote it wrong, but so Dracula in either Transylvania or Romania, it actually means dragon.
Yeah, it's the son of the dragon.
Yeah, so there was a count. His name was the dragon, right? So he had a son. Do you know who his son was?
Vlad
the Impaler.
Yeah.
So he was Vlad the Impaler, who was obviously Vlad Dracula.
Yeah.
So he was a Wallachian prince, and that's how they referred to him, was Wallachian Prince Vlad. And then as he went out on his little campaigns and crusades, then he became known as Vlad the Impaler. And of course, you know why.
Yeah, because he impaled a whole bunch of his enemies.
And why did he do that?
To tell them to fuck off and leave. So
there's 2 theories behind it. One was to like make a very clear declarative statement that, hey, you fuck with me, I'll torture you to death. And this is how we're going to do it. And 2 was because he actually took great pleasure in torturing people. And that was the greatest thing for him, was to be able to slowly impale somebody. It was very erotic for him. It was very exciting. So some interesting things. And again, when we go to these people in history, there's always that flux, right? With when they were born, when they died. But this one wasn't so bad. So this one, he was born somewhere between 1428 and 1431.
Okay.
And they know he died in either 1476 or 1477.
Okay.
So I'm going to back up just 1 second, and I'm going to start from the beginning because I had my thumb on something. So we're talking about Dracula, who was created completely by Bram Stoker. The idea of what Dracula is that we think
vampire,
of,
yeah.
the vampire in pop culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bram Stoker, and he is considered the father of all vampire fiction. He was born in 1847 and he died in 1912.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you know what he died of?
Chlamydia.
Close. So his cause of death on his death certificate is listed as locomotor ataxia. Do you know what that is?
I assume it's some sort of nervous disorder that messes with your skeletal muscle control.
It is a disorder where you have the inability to control your own motor functions.
Okay.
And there are only a couple of causes for it, one being genetic and nobody else in his family had it, and the other is a direct causality from syphilis.
Okay.
So they are fairly certain he actually died of prolonged syphilis, right?
Okay. Untreated syphilis. Yeah.
That is correct. So when he created Dracula, he pulled from a couple of different places, right?
Okay.
Count Dracula. Let me be very specific because we're going to get somebody who's going to be like, oh, but Dracula was a count and he ruled in Romania. That I fucking know. Okay, I did the research, right?
You can still go to his castle.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So for the characteristics, some of the characteristics we have, two primary sources. One, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler was believed to have hemolacria. Do you know what that is?
Some blood condition. I don't know.
That is correct. That is blood in your tears. Where you have you get, and you don't have to be crying. You can just literally have eye moisture leak and blood will come out with it. Right.
Okay.
He had a massive reputation for cruelty and extreme brutality. Impalement, it was his preferred torture. And anytime he sentenced somebody to die, that's how he implemented it, was impale them. And it's really interesting because I guess I could have grabbed a picture, but they actually have this picture of Vlad sitting at a feast. And this is an actual picture that was in the newspapers when they discussed his what he had done, when they're talking about the history of what he had done.
Okay.
Because at that time, you were just getting into... where is it? Basically, it's when they were making wood stamps. So they were just doing that. So
okay.
it sped everything up.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is when they were starting to do these movable types, that was one thing that they had, is they show Vlad at a feast, and he's got impaled, dying people all around him, because he much preferred them to be impaled at the midsection, so they had a much slower and crueler death.
Oh, instead of up the bum like is normal for impalement.
That is correct. He preferred to go midsection. It made them suffer longer.
Yeah.
When he got imprisoned, so historically they know that he got off basically on this impalement, and he really loved this impalement, because when he was imprisoned for what he did, because not only was it these extreme cruelty and extreme implement punishment, but he also was accused of
like Satan worship or something like that.
No, there's a specific derivativeness or something like that. So he made promises to two opposing people. I'm with you. And I'm with you. I'm with you. So he had opposing loyalty.
Divisive.
Thank you. Say that 50 times fast, for fuck's sake. Anyways, so while he was imprisoned, they have records of him while he was imprisoned that he would catch, torture, and impale rats. Like he would impale them and cut bits and pieces of them off and stick them on his wall, and he would laugh about it. And he got like a lot of sexual gratification off of it.
Okay.
Which is really, right? Okay. So anyways, but there are some historians that say the tales of his cruelty and depravity, it might have been a little exaggerated, because once you've got movable type going, and they started telling these stories, these historical stories, a lot of people didn't have a lot of interest in it. Oh, that was like, 300, 200, 100, 300, however
Yeah, they were
many
trying to
hundreds.
sell papers, so they exaggerated.
Exactly. They were really trying to do it. So where so some of the stories they have out there are absolutely true. They've been able to prove it. Like one of the stories is he came upon 4 monks, and he spared 2 of them, and 2 of them he killed, and he impaled. He impaled to kill them, to bring them closer to heaven, which is where they wished to be. So it sounds like, from what I'd read, that 2 of the monks who bore witness to this, he was just like, you tell them, you go tell everybody. Either they're down with the Vlad or they're up with God. That they have a choice. But he was so impartial to who he killed. He didn't care, especially if he was in a mood. He didn't care. So these 2 monks were masters of donkeys, obviously, right? And the donkeys were trying to interfere. Obviously, their masters are getting a slow, torturous death. They're screaming, they're crying, they're put me out of my misery, and Vlad's laughing. And so he walks over and he impales the donkey. And I'm assuming by the description I read, he impales them the traditional way to shut them up, because he was annoyed with the donkey braying, making noise, because he couldn't hear the wailing of the monks as he laughed at them.
Yeah.
So huge influence, right? Now you can really appreciate. So he had another inspiration for these characteristics that he says and it is Count Dracula.
Yeah.
It's not Count Dracula. It's Count Dracula, right? So he had another inspiration for the characteristics.
Okay.
Care to take a wild guess? Where would it come from? What folklore would it come from that I'm so excited to tell you about?
Well, I know, there's 2 kind of things. One is that one of the kind of common ideas for religious groups at the time that he was alive, the actual Dracula was alive, was that if you basically died and weren't basically saved by whatever church, that you would be damned to walk the earth forever, drinking blood to survive. That's part of it. Also, there's another creature called the Vakulak that is from that same kind of region. And basically it's a weird kind of thing, because it's basically almost a combination of a vampire, a werewolf, and a zombie. So they kind of more or less have features of all 3. And so some people think that's where the origin of those 3 things came from, especially werewolves, apparently. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. And all of that is all stuff that's there in the folklore, but it's not the folklore that inspired Bram Stoker.
Okay.
Which you would think, right? Because it's kind of a boring story with the actual Count Dracula, with the actual King Dracula, shall we say, Vlad's father. Like he just wanted people to just fucking. He was not nearly as cruel as Vlad was. He was much more amenable. He tried to put out these stories that, hey, look, if you don't behave, then we're going to have problems and these things are going to happen to you. So he wasn't as forceful as Vlad was. Vlad, the Impaler, his son, he was vengeful with everything, because how dare you question a prince's commands? Ooh, ego.
There was
reminds me of somebody.
During the time that those 2 were around, there was a number of things going on. Like, for instance, I think it was the Ottoman Empire was invading their territory.
Yes.
And basically they had fucked over the dad, so the son was extremely fucking, I'm done with all of you motherfuckers. I'm going to fucking fuck you all up.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, life was cheap. So if you want to give a strong message of don't fuck with me,
Yeah.
then doing fucked up shit to people is exactly what
Genghis
you have
Khan,
to do.
you got to show a strong force. Well, it's interesting because right around this time too, right around the time of when Vlad the Impaler was born, you've also got the starting of the witch trials through the Crusades and everything. So it's kind of interesting how it all falls together. But I'm going to scroll and get off track because I am so proud. This is something you talked about a couple weeks ago, and I got my brain together and I did the research, and I mean, I had eight different fucking pages open going, okay. And I'm like cross-referencing going, that matches that much. Okay, great. So anyways, Bram Stoker had two primaries for these characteristics of what we think of Count Dracula. And that is this vicious, this heart, this tyrant, this my way, the only way, right? So we have Vlad on the one side who absolutely loves certain types of torture. He loves blood. And we know that because they actually have it recorded where he just laughed at the face of people. And in one counting of it, he actually took some bread from his feast and dunked it in the blood. And I bathe in the blood of my enemy. Blah. Anyways, but there was a second one. And he comes from Irish folklore.
Interesting.
And it is the legend. It is the legend. Now, the pronunciation, you have to just bear with me, okay?
Okay. It
is the legend of the chieftain, Aur Gurtak Guk, or Udgdgch. It's spelled Abhartach, right? Which to you or I would, like, in English speaking, we would look at it and go like, oh, Arbitage. No. That's not how it's spelled.
Yeah, it's because it's
Gaelic. It's part Gaelic.
Yeah, it's Gaelic, not English, so it's not going to be pronounced the same.
And what is super crazy, this is something I've never heard of, and obviously I've got some Irish in me. You've got some Irish in you, right? This goes back to the 5th and 6th century, so between 400 and 500 BCE. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? So he was a chieftain in County Derry, Ireland.
County Derry.
Anyway. And he ended up being buried in Slaughterverty near Magara, Londonderry, North Ireland. So this shows you how crazy. This is the folklore. This is the shit people believe, right? So what they know about this chieftain, what they believe, what they have written in their laws and history. He was a dwarf. And he was a magician.
Okay.
And above all other things, he was a tyrant.
Okay.
He liked to torture the townspeople if they didn't immediately do his bidding as quickly as he'd like. And even just when he was bored, he liked to torture them. And he liked to drink their blood to show his superiority. And of course, using his blood magics and all that, right? So... I'm sorry. So when he was slaughtered, when he was killed, he was killed by another chieftain.
Okay.
And that other chieftain from a nearby territory was... I'll show you how it's written in a little bit. But we're just going to say the proper pronunciation is Finn McCool.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so he saved the town people from the cruelty and the tyranny, but it took him 3 times to kill him. The first time he killed him, he buried him. The chieftain, Abertak or whatever, abracadabra, Arukatak, he rose from his grave.
Okay.
Because he was buried standing up because he was short-statured.
Okay.
And then they buried him laying down, and he rose again. So the third time that they buried him laying face down so that he could not, because they believed that because he was a magician, that is how he brought himself back from the dead, was that he was standing up so he could put his praises out to the moon and the stars. Even from underneath, he could project his magic where he wanted to go. So, they decided they better not fucking stand him up the second time he was killed. But they had him laying face up so he could do the same because the spirit remained in his body. Then the third time is when they faced it down because he has nowhere to pray but hell, right?
Yeah.
So 3 attempts to kill this guy, this Chief Arbok or whatever. I wish I could pronounce it because it's such a beautiful looking name, but the pronunciation is anyways. But there's some interesting lore that goes along with it. Just like as a side note, I threw it in there. So, Chieftain Finn McCool. You know who it is.
I've heard the name before.
Okay.
But not necessarily... I don't know if it's actually the same person or not.
Okay.
Because, sometimes authors will use those names for their own characters that are completely unrelated, just as a callback to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I heard it was
Finn McCool
was I think the Junkyard Druid is the dude's name is Finn McCool, I do believe.
That might make sense. So Finn McCool was a very beloved chieftain. He was known to fight for the people, and they looked at him as like a giant slayer, like he was a big guy, really tall. So one of the interesting lores about him, dun dun dun, is the Isle of Man.
Okay.
Is actually a clump of Ireland that Finn McCool threw at a rival, and it missed hitting the rival and landed in the sea. And that's how the Isle of Man became the way it is. That's why it's the 3 legs. That's why it is. So that's just a fun fact. That's just like a fun lore. I was just like, oh, that's really neat. Just because the Isle of Man. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He's trying to defeat this rival who's trying to bring some tyranny back on Irish soil. And he just grabs a chunk of the earth and says, fuck you, and tosses it. I'm like, yeah, that's about a Dagda thing right there. But I thought you'd appreciate that because Isle of Man, we've talked about it before, like privately or whatever. Anyways. So those are the 2 guys that are behind it. A dwarf and basically Romanian prince or a Welschian prince or whatever. But that's all over in that area.
Yeah.
And of course, they were both known for cruelty. They were both known for drinking blood. They were both... they were just really known for being very arrogant. They were known very much for being... very pious and arrogant and do as I say, and but yeah, Vlad definitely got off on it, which is what Bram Stoker wanted to really evoke with this Count Dracula character, is that he's so powerful. There's little you can do against him.
Yeah.
Because he also, some of the characteristics were also inspired by a couple of other guys, but the other guys mostly inspired the looks. And Bram Stoker really did a good job of encompassing just everything about these people. Because what do we know about Dracula? We know that he's very suave. We know he's efficient. We also know that he's bloodthirsty. And we also know that he can be exceptionally cruel if you don't do his bidding, right?
Yeah. Also very charismatic if you are.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So the inspiration for the way Dracula looks and some of Dracula's actual characteristics, like how he behaves, comes from a couple people. One of them being Henry Irving, who was an actor in England, I believe. Yeah. And he was born in 1838 and he died in 1905. He had a very dark appearance. He was very self-absorbed. He was very manipulative, and he loved to instigate arguments and rivalries between people who would follow him in his inner circle, which he would change you out like me changing my underpants twice a day. He would just flip, just whoever amused him most. That's what it would do. He was in constant need of his inner circle. Literally, he was in constant need of his inner circle to do every little thing he wanted the way he wanted it. And he desired, if he wanted to touch your butt, you better let him do it. Otherwise, you're out of the inner circle, and then he's going to cause problems for you.
It's 3 a.m. in Princeland. Prince wants a llama.
Right.
Prince gets a llama.
Right.
And it's a camel. Sorry.
So it's really, and you can go on, anybody can go on Wikipedia and look up this Henry Irving guy. And it's just like, oh yeah, I can see that physical resemblance. He's got the dark hair. He's got a slight hunch. He's very tall. He's, dark complexion. He's very gaunt looking in the face, like he's fucking malnourished. But he was an actor. He and his wife both, yes, they were all actors, right? Okay. So, but Bram Stoker was actually infatuated with him because this guy apparently, besides everybody knowing that he's this self-absorbed douchebag, he was very charismatic because he could fall into character like that. He didn't have to think about it. Oh, I'm going to be an aristocrat today. He was in that. Oh, I'm a humble beggar. Like, he was very charismatic and he was very smart. Even though he was an asshole, he was like really smart because he ran this whole, he independently, like he made all the decisions for this acting troupe that toured around Europe and everything.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like he made money because, and he made it very well because he didn't pay for shit. He made everybody else pay for it. Not just patrons either, but like his friends would cover costs of things because, he can't be bothered. Right. So that's one of the two people that he gets some of the characteristics from.
Okay.
So the other person, his name is Aristides Damala, or AKA Jacques Damala. He was a Greek military officer and he was an actor.
Okay.
And he lived from 1855 until 1839, but I might have,
You flipped the numbers.
I think I flipped the numbers out to but anyways, and he died by a drug overdose of morphine and cocaine. So speedball, right?
Hookers and blow.
Man. Tiger blood.
Obviously, he had some tiger blood too.
Right.
I mean, he's Greek. So
we know. You know
lion
what?
blood.
Right. Charlie Sheen could be him reincarnated. Okay. Because he's got the square head, the dark hair, everything, like same stature and everything. Like you can see pictures of him. Anyways, so this is why I say Charlie Sheen could be. Most people knew him as Jacques Damala.
Okay.
But even though his given name, his birth name was Aristides Damala. Anyways, but this is why I say Charlie Sheen could be him reincarnate because this guy, this is Jacques Damala. He acquired the reputation that he was the handsomest man in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was nicknamed Diplomat Apollo by his friends, and he was considered a highly dangerous man by the husbands of women in old gay Paris because they were worried their wives would fall prey to his charms and would succumb to his seductions. He was, obviously he was an actor. He could do it that well. He could make women leave their husbands for a night to service his whims and needs however he wanted, right?
What was that? Don Juan?
Yeah, pretty much.
There was another dude. Anyway, no, not important.
So he was known very much as a womanizer and a drug addict. He was often thought of as near dead. People thought he was near dead, and so that's probably that is definitely where Bram pulled some of his inspiration for how Dracula remained so calm so much of the time, and he had that kind of gazed off appearance, is because this guy, this Jacques Damala, was so drugged up all the time. He would be sitting at a dinner and he would be very blank faced. His eyelids would droop, his mouth would hang open as if he was a corpse just sitting there, because it would take several times and attempts for him to respond. And then when he would move, it would be very laborious for him to get up, and he would just like get up like really slow. And he was very disjointed when he walked because he was that high. He couldn't feel what he was doing. Right. But yeah, and it freaked people out in social circles because a lot of people, especially, he was an actor, so they're used to seeing him on stage. So when they'd meet him in these social circles, they didn't know what to think about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would also, when he was in these drug comas, that's the best way to describe it, honestly.
Yeah.
He would sit there and he would kind of he would move his jaw as if he was speaking, but it's what they call blank speech, because either one, whatever he was trying to say was inaudible, or two, it was unintelligible. And he could stare without blinking for like long periods of time because he was so like intoxicated or under the influence. So you pull these four guys together and you have got the great Count Dracula. And so it's kind of interesting that not only is it pulled from Romanian, wouldn't we say Romanian?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Romanian folklore and Irish folklore, which Bram Stoker was Irish.
Okay.
He had a lot of Irish heredity in him, but also people he'd met in his real life, because even though they don't, apparently Bram was very not hetero, and
Okay.
and it's like, yeah, it's, I don't know why it became such a big deal. Nobody really cared. I think the only time anybody cared was from like 1920 to like
1980.
well, probably more like the 2000s, because you still had people in the late 90s like Matthew Shepard who were being murdered for being gay.
Yeah.
So it's just this huge thing that happens. And of course, you know, yeah, the 80s, it was a big, just massive boom of hate for any man who was homosexual, just simply because of the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting that like he takes like the worst things about these historical and folklore people, and he's just like, yeah, bro, that's hot. We're gonna have this guy who's so charismatic and he's gonna make you happy, but you fuck up once and he's gonna rip your throat out because he's got bloodlust. It's so crazy. So yeah. So you were wondering where it came from, and you were like, I wonder. So yeah, there's influences, but there's nobody very specifically. There was only a couple of instances where Vlad himself actually consumed blood. And that literally was probably for more of a show of intimidation or force versus a desire to. But the dwarf chieftain, he definitely loved blood because he believed that that is what kept his magic fierce.
Well, I do know that the Druids, the Celtic Druids, they had like blood sacrifices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although, as far as I know, those were only during like extreme circumstances, like when the Romans were basically kicking the shit out of all of them.
Yeah.
There's they found a bunch of sacrificial corpses, and a bunch of them are like the one of them that I remember watching a little special on. This person was a prince,
right?
And so, because you could tell, because first of all, this person was extremely healthy,
right,
and in the prime of his life, so he was like in his late teens, early 20s, and so like physically he was in perfect health. And then also a bunch of the stuff that he had on him when he was sacrificed was also like
things you associate.
Shit.
Yeah.
And from the look of it, because the body is actually very well preserved, there was no struggle. So this person either was drugged or was willing sacrifice. And basically the time that this happened was when the Romans were basically defeating this group's fucking forces. So it looked like they were sacrificing them to their gods to hopefully
appease them.
Yeah, help them win.
Well, it's history is such a fascinating thing because so many people are like, oh my God, serial killers. In modern times, Vlad the Impaler would be considered basically just as bad as Hitler. When they look at when the historians look at what he did, they look at it for that phrase in time. But if you modernize it, they would be like, it literally was genocide. He committed genocide, and he would be considered having war crimes because everything he did was very. One of these things is not like the other. It doesn't belong in my world. Die. Yeah, that's just how it was for him.
I think he was one of the people too who basically, in the Red Wedding, he basically did a situation like that where he invited a bunch of people over and then fucking murdered them all.
Yeah.
At a dinner, I believe he did that. It
I'm
was either him or his father, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure his father actually did that to try to do a show of force. But again, it's like a lot of different back and forth reading, because you've got some historians go, oh, this is a summation, and then you other have go no, that's just you're just suspecting it, that's just a supposition, we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a little conflicting, but what rings true are the things that I told you today.
Yeah.
Those are the things that they all agree on.
Well, there's also like, I'm pretty sure it was the Ottomans.
Yeah, it was the Ottoman Empire who tried to.
So I'm sure some of the information comes from them, and it's probably tainted because they were not friends.
So the information they believe is tainted is the people who were trying. So this is where they think the information's tainted from the original writings. Like they have the Germanic side of things. They think a lot of it is true. Like it's the Pareto rule. Okay. It's like 80-20. Like they put this out here. This is our history. This is our people's. This is what happened. And they weren't selling it. And they were like, so then they did go through and they just glorified a lot of the stories. But the basics of the stories do ring true.
Yeah.
So you've got like, that 20% of it where it's just like really overgored to tell a story, a tale of warning.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But what happened while I'm doing this research is I'm going, I don't feel like talking about Vlad the Impaler for an hour or whatever, because it's one of those things where you can get into a lot of tricky conversation because we look at all these things in life and we're like, that's wrong. Okay, well, that's how people conquered lands back then.
Yeah.
And I found other things that I thought were kind of interesting too.
You know the best part about Vlad the Impaler?
He's dead.
Gore made a song.
I should have known that was actually, I remember seeing that in the lyrics and I was just like, no.
Vlad the Impaler.
Yep. No.
He could have been a sailor, could have been a tailor. He turned out to be the Impaler.
That is correct. And that's the thing, is he had the opportunity to make peace. He had the opportunity to do all these different things, and he just went, that's not how you treated my daddy. We don't like your kind around here.
And I think maybe I'm confusing him with Attila, because Attila was raised by Romans. Because kind of like what you see in Game of Thrones a lot, where somebody conquers somebody else, they take their child.
They take one of their children, yeah.
Yeah. So in a situation like that where he was, I think that happened with Vlad also. I'm not sure. I know it happened with Attila,
Vlad was actually, if I read, like, I'll go back and look at it and I'll confirm for you or whatever, but I am pretty sure he was actually considered one way or the other. He was actually considered Dracula's actual son because he was the heir to the empire.
You know, what I meant was that he spent time in the Ottoman Empire as a political prisoner, basically. I'm not sure.
He might have for a year or two, but I don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. So I have to really hyper focus when I'm doing research because, as you can see, I have more than just 2 pages here, because when I start researching something and my brain goes, oh, I wonder, and I wonder, I will veer off. And if I would have got into the Ottoman Empire, I probably would still be researching it and being like, I don't have this together for you, but I wanted to, because it was just such a genuine question by you. So it's just like, you're like, I wonder. So here's what happened while I was doing that. And I'm reading and I'm typing away and I go, what about werewolves though? Because we know that, like, Count Dracula, he is from what we consider, monsters.
Yeah.
And all that. So.
Well, I will say 2 things.
Uno.
Every culture has some form of vampire. It's extremely common. Every culture has their own kind of version of vampires.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with like emotional vampires more than anything else. Emotional and financial vampires. So just people who are leeching off of.
Yeah. And then also, they all have some sort of animal person. So whether it be a shapeshifter or if it's actually something that's in between being a man or a woman and an animal, pretty much every culture has that too.
Right.
They're
So
some of the two most common
right.
themes in humanity.
Right. But here's the thing. I'll research vampires now too, because very specifically you were asking about Count Dracula.
Yeah.
So very specifically, I only
And Bram
researched him.
Stoker, because the reason I was wondering, I think, is because he's Irish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why was an Irishman writing about a Romanian dude?
Yeah. So, but that goes to show what people say about Stoker, which is that he basically did an amalgamation of all these people he'd read about. He'd read about these people, obviously his own Irish folklore, and then, and he was just like, this can't be. And then he was like, and he'd ran across these texts about Vlad, and it was like, oh, so he had that overwhelming sense of, wow, that cruelty and that depravity. We're going back 400. We're going back at the point that he writes his book. You're going back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You're going back 1,400 years, 1,200 years. You know what I mean? Like you're going all the way back to 500-600 BCE and then 14.
Yeah. With the Irish dude is.
Yeah. So, you're literally going back over all this span of time. So here's this cruelty. Here's this depravity, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people kind of speculate. The two individuals where he draws the looks and some of the attributes of
the personality traits.
Yeah. The Count from the head vampire of all is these two men that he was infatuated with. He had a serious chubby wubby for them. He was it is well known that he wanted to the first one, what's his name? So this guy,
The British dude.
Henry Irving.
Yeah.
So the British guy, right? Henry Irving was considered to be the biggest love of Bram Stoker's life. It was the only adult love he'd ever had was with this individual. And he craved the attention from this guy. He wanted nothing more than the approval of him. He wanted his time. He wanted his attention. It is speculated that they rolled in the hay more than a few times because they both died similar ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, and of course he was very impressed with Damala or Dalama.
The Greek dude.
Jacques, the Greek dude. He was very impressed with him because, again, you're talking about somebody who's very charismatic and has that same, like a narcissistic base where it's just like, oh, I'll tell you anything. I'll tell you you're fucking pretty if you do what I want. And if not, you can go sit in the corner and you can wait to be reaped. You know what I mean? Like he was obsessed. He became obsessed with them. And so when you know that history of it and then you go read Bram Stoker's Dracula again, or you listen to it on your Audible again, you might have a different view of it because it's just like, it's literally like his love affair to these guys. And so he has these two guys, that's his love letter to them, but their cruelty is what you see from Vlad and the Chieftain. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
That's interesting because that kind of explains the sort of sexual undertones in a lot of the stuff.
Yes.
Of course, it's been taken a lot farther over the years, but I've never read the actual original Dracula.
I have not read it either, but I do want to see if they have a version of it available through the library.
I'm sure they do.
They've got to because it's one of the most reprinted books in history.
Yeah.
So it was a fascinating research. It was a fascinating read, but like I said, because we are going to run short on time, so I do want to run through these really quick. So werewolves, right? Are they real or are they not real? They come from ancient myths about shape-shifting, shamanism, and animal spirits. People they were being observed at times acting oddly, and that became linked to like wolf-like behavior, aggressive, disoriented, which there was people forget that wolves are a huge portion of wolves are actually an endangered species. And so they forget that once upon a time, massively more roam the earth. So it was really common over in
Europe,
in Rome and Europe and Greece. It was all common in all these places for thousands of wolves to be roaming. And and of course there was the rabies epidemic that happened. And with the rabies epidemic, these wolves were behaving strange, and some people would behave strange. It's stuff that we would now probably consider more like mental health issues that we've been able to determine. It wouldn't necessarily all be rabies, but you could get rabies from scratches and bites.
And I believe there's an actual psychological condition called lycanthropy.
Yes, there is. I didn't go that far into it because I was just wondering where the origin of werewolves were from. So one of the behaviors about where the origins of werewolves come from, and it's probably about 20% of where people started talking about werewolves, is because there would be like accidental killings during disputes. That's my water. That's my girl. Shove, push. Somebody would fall, accidentally die. And so people, because there were so many wolves that lived around these villages and towns, people would actually take these wolf skulls and they would like imitate bites on them and paw marks. And so they were covering up these accidental killings because they were afraid of being brought to justice, instead of people understanding, okay, you guys were in a fist fight and you hit him and he tripped and he fell and broke his neck. Okay. Even these accidental killings that were witnessed, people were still afraid of the persecution they were going to get, right? So, they were covered. So they would point to wolf attacks and just to avoid any of the questions or punishment, which is really interesting because that really definitely built up the idea of shapeshifters and wolves. So there's a couple of stories that involve werewolves that reference werewolves and shapeshifters. And
there was a time where people would kind of like the witch hunts where they would accuse you of being a werewolf.
Yeah.
And so that they could kill you.
Yeah.
And there's one that's especially funny because the fucking dude, he was an older guy. He was like in his 50s or something, which at that time is relatively old.
Right.
And one of his enemies basically accused him of being a werewolf. And at the trial, he's like, yes, I'm a werewolf. And fucking he was like, I am the fucking wolf of God. This is actually referenced in other stuff.
Right.
He's like, I'm the wolf of God. Every night I go to hell and fucking kill demons for God. And that's why I'm a werewolf. And so he got off.
That's nice. That's a fucking smart man right there.
Yeah. And so, like, if you ever watched the show Penny Dreadful, one of the characters is referred to as the Hand of God.
Right. I've only seen about a half hour of one episode. So I know it's a good one because it's got Josh Hartnett in it.
Yes, yes.
But the lady kind of creeps me out with the way she looks.
I mean, she's supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. So the oldest stories, the very oldest stories that involve referencing werewolves and shapeshifting in that into a wolf form or anything like that go all the way back. There is two actual folklore historical stories. One is the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Okay.
So it is.
Yeah. One of his friends was a monster creature dude.
Yeah, it's the story of King Gilgamesh of Uruk and the wild man in Kedu.
Yeah.
And they became friends after a competition. They became. I didn't want to get into it, but so in Kedu was a wild man, and he was believed to be like half wolf or whatever.
Yeah.
And he got tamed by having sex with some known prostitute. And once he got tamed, he went into a competition against Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh won. And even though there was animosity from that, they became friends because they fought fairly, and they became friends. And so they went to the cedar forest to cut down something, and they ended up slaying Humbaba, who was the guardian of the forest. So the reference to the werewolf is in Kedu.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because when you read through this thing, it's just like, yeah, he's a wild man. He's a wolf man. And it's like, and they don't go into like, oh, the horrors. They don't do it. They're just like, oh yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, he's just some hairy dude. It's kind of nutty, whatever. So it's interesting. So that's one of the first stories about that references werewolves.
Okay.
The other one is about King Lycaon.
Okay.
So King Lycaon killed and cooked his own son and served his son's cooked flesh to Zeus because he wanted to test to see if Zeus actually was all-knowing. Could he tell the difference? Did he know what happened? Zeus, in turn, and let me tell you what, Zeus got fucking pissed. Zeus was all-knowing. Zeus knew exactly what was going on. So Zeus turned him into a werewolf and then resurrected killed the slain son, which his name was Nyctimus or Nyctimus, Nyctimus.
Okay.
And he
resurrected. And
yeah,
that's
he
where
got
we get
resurrected.
the
Yeah.
term lycanthrope from because okay.
Because he was turned into a wolf by Zeus's punishment.
Nice.
So that's really interesting. And then, of course, so, when you look at that is so far back in history, right?
Yeah.
It's way back out there. So the very first early fictional stories, right? The very first one that I could find, and I'm sure there's more, and if anybody wants to drop a comment or whatever so I can look at it, that'd be great. But the first story that I could find, the first reference, the earliest reference was a story called Hugues the Werewolf, WER-WULF, done by Sutherland Menzies in 1838. Right?
I mean, were means man.
Yes.
So.
And wolf spelled differently, Germanically,
Yeah.
Irish. It's all pronounced the same way. It's either like werewolf or werewolf.
Yeah.
So but they're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Half man, half beast, man who can transform into beast.
Yeah.
And then the next story that came out that involved werewolves was called The Phantom Ship, and it was done by Frederick Marryat. I think it's supposed to say Frederick, but I was typing really fast because I was running low on time. And that came out in 1839. And then, of course, the most famous reference to what might not be associated to a lot of people, but is supposed to actually be about half man, half werewolf, is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson in 1886. So he actually wrote Mr. Hyde as a werewolf.
Okay.
So that explains his transformation. Like if you've ever seen Van Helsing, that totally explains that transformation as that hairy, hulking beast.
Yeah.
So, but he was, again, Stevenson wrote him as half man, half wolf, therefore a werewolf.
Ah.
So, last but not least, because I know we're running out of time, one of my favorite subjects. Can you guess?
Zombies.
Zombies! Yes. I was actually really excited because just for shits and giggles, I looked up zombies because they're not your typical, not when we're going back in history. They're not to us in the Americas. Let me say that really quick. To us in England and to us in America, it is not your typical they've been talking about this for 300 years. It's not to us. Maybe certain parts of the U.S. it's kind of, but so zombies are actually from Haitian folklore. Folklore.
Yeah.
And it's based on voodoo.
Yeah.
Not voodoo. Okay, there's two differences. Voodoo is VOODOO. That's what we're commonplace know, right?
Yeah.
This is actually voodoo, VODOU, which is the darker practice of voodoo.
Okay.
To create a personal slave.
Okay.
Some of it could have been because somebody needed to finish repaying a debt, or it could have been a punishment for something the person had done when they were alive. So you've got, when you look at it, and this is so crazy because a lot of people, this is probably going to upset some people, and it's just like, dude, it's history. You can go fucking Wikipedia it. You can look it up. You can Google it. You can Wikipedia it. You can check it out for yourself. So Haitian slave drivers, some of the earliest known slave drivers, So slave areas, Haitians going back.
Okay. Yeah.
How would you prefer I say it?
Carry on. Just continue.
This guy. They were so the Haitian slave drivers were often slaves themselves, and on occasion, they were also voodoo priests
Okay.
themselves. So one of the things that would happen with these slaves that were run under in Haitian slavery, one of the things that would happen with these slaves is they would kill themselves a lot. A lot of them couldn't stand to be taken from being a wild free man to being an enslaved person. And they would kill themselves. They would find a way to kill themselves because I'm not going to be your slave. I'm not going to do this. They would get beat often to, be forced to perform. Right. Yeah. So these slave drivers that were voodoo priests would use the threats of, I will zombify you. So they used threats of zombification to keep these slaves from misbehaving and killing themselves.
Okay.
Because it was the biggest threats were they would use threats of zombification to the enslaved to discourage the idea of suicide, because it would be a much worse punishment than just serving the masters alive.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Fun fact. Do you know how you fix somebody from being a zombie? According to the Haitian histories.
Yeah, I don't remember.
You feed them salt.
Okay.
You have to put salt in their mouth. Salt breaks the zombie spell.
Okay.
Right? But here's the crazy thing, and this is something that I don't know if it's still enacted. I didn't have time to finish looking at, but just the fact that this was actually fucking part of a law blew my mind. So Article 246 of the Haitian Criminal Code that was passed in 1864, hundreds of years after this Haitian slavery issue, right? Mm-hmm. It was the official recognition of zombies in Haiti.
Okay.
So Article 246 of the Haitian Criminal Code that was passed in 1864 officially recognized zombies. And there's three kinds of zombies. You've got zombie, and that's French Haitian. They have their own version of it.
Okay.
Then you've got zombie, which is French Creole. So they have their own stories for that.
Okay.
And then you've got Zumbi, which is Kikongo. And they all refer in their own way to mythologically undead corporal revenant created through the reanimation of a corpse to haunt the living, to perform deeds, to work in servitude, enslaved. They are all believed, no matter what other means happen, they're all believed that primarily it is magic in the different religion of Vodou, which is, again, the darker version of voodoo.
Okay.
That's done by like the Bacors and everything. Yeah, it's all believed to be based in magic. Now, if you remember back in the 80s, there was a book and a movie called The Serpent and the Rainbow.
I remember that.
Yeah. And he was talking about the whole, like the tetrodotoxin and all that. Some of that might have to do with it. But when you go back to true, authentic zombies, that's where it comes from, is from Haiti folklore.
Yeah.
From Haitian folklore.
Yeah.
So, you go all the way back, and this has always been there. And Haitians have only been the ones to dance around it. And then, of course, the voodoo that the French Creole have down, I think a lot of it's in like the Louisiana Lake area, in the Bayou area. You've got that. That's how we kind of commonly know a little bit more about. But what's interesting is, so all these hundreds of years, it's been around. It's known fact. Yep, there's a zombie for you. Whatever. That's all based in magic. All of it is based in magic.
Yeah.
When you get to more modern depictions, it does not include any magic. It is all based about fungi, radiation, gases, diseases,
viruses.
Plants, viruses, bacteria, right? So the first time that, let's just say white people. So the first time that Europeans, and then obviously then Americans, became aware of zombies and stuff was in a book called The History of Brazil by the poet laureate Robert Southey in 1819. That's the first time that Europeans become aware of zombies. Like, oh wait, what? Because he actually traveled to Africa and Haiti and Brazil, obviously, and did all this research and everything. So I didn't look it up to see if it was a book still available. I'm like, it's 200 and something years old. So
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm just gonna be like, zombie bad. Like, okay, maybe if it's somebody I knew and they were in a zombified state, maybe I'd try to put some salt in their mouth, but I'm not gonna be wait to be ripped apart by them. Sorry. No, I have a shotgun that says otherwise. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the very first writing about it to Europeans, right? That's well known. There are other little tidbits and stories, but nothing that anybody could pin down until 1929. There is a novel out there called The Magic Island, done by W.B. Seabrook.
Okay.
So I want to read about that because I'm like, that's interesting. It's just because obviously, but the most modern of the way we look at zombies was done none other but the magnificent George Romero with his premiere movie of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
He is the godfather of all modern zombie iterations. Mm-hmm. He is the one that inspires us. He's the one who just went, I'm not fucking with magic, but what if? And that's how we have modern zombies.
Yeah.
And it's very, very fascinating because we've talked about zombies before and based on science fact, not science fiction. Mm-hmm. But it's really cool that we as Americans get to go like, yep. Yeah, George Romero, he terrified y'all with zombies. We get to lay claim to that, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
That makes me think you should play the game, God damn it, Secret World. It's kind of dying now, but the very first what would you say? The very first chapter of the game takes place on a place called Solomon Island, which is an actual island off of the East Coast.
Right.
And
is it going to have the same fucking bullshit that happened in Elder Scrolls?
No.
What? An open world game that lets you play open world? By the way, I do actually have it on my Steam. It says it needs an update, and every time I tell it to update, the update fails.
So it's an MMO, and the very first Solomon Island is in the middle of a zombie uprising.
Nice.
The next place that you go to is Egypt, I do believe, and that's not zombies. They do kind of have zombies in that area too, but you're usually dealing more with like mummies and which are kind of like zombies too. But
I was gonna look mummies up, and I was just like, eh.
And then the last place that you go to is basically Transylvania, and you're dealing with vampires and werewolves there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole fucking first act of the game takes place on a zombie invaded island. Mm-hmm. And it's also kind of like they got a lot of Stephen King type references. In fact, there's a character on the island that's basically Stephen King.
Nice.
In a lighthouse. And there's like the fog is also there. It's what brought the zombies. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of like Draugr, which are basically, well, there's several different varieties of them in folklore, but and in games, but these are basically the zombies that are drowned humans. Mm-hmm. And so there's a bunch of these things like invading from the coast, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, it has just the first area has a buttload of different things going on. There's some Native American stuff going on. There's the fucking Norse fucking undead coming up from the water. There's fucking these crazy mannequin things. There's these crazy scarecrow and fucking there's all kinds of shit going on there.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny how it's just like we've talked before about history, and people are just very misled that, this, all this craziness is just a current thing. No, it's not. It's really not. You can literally look back through history and you can see things like, Vlad the Impaler, Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan. And it's just like, and it's not just Hitler. It's not just that. I have tons of stories about serial killers that go way back. Mm-hmm. And people are just like, oh, no, it's just now. You know more about it because we have social media. We have what used to take a year or two to get from East Coast to West Coast. We now can have at the snap of a finger. Yeah. A push of a button.
And the 24-hour news cycle is not helping things either. They're reiterating the same fucking shit multiple times for multiple days. And now it seems like you're inundated with thousands of fucking name a fucking crisis.
Right. And it's just like it's amazing to me how people don't look at history as anything important. It's very important. Mm-hmm. Because there are some things I see and I'm just like, this is getting a little bit close to something we don't want to see happen again.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that because I don't fucking talk politics very specifically for the reason because it pisses people off, which makes me angry because it's just like, I just want to be a good fucking human. Mm-hmm. I try my very best to be a good human to you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're like, I fucking know because I'm worth it.
I am amazing.
Micro penis. Anyways. Actually, we should start saying because you're so dense about something. No, he's got a huge dick. It's so massive. You're like, don't fucking insult me. Because I remember what you said.
Don't ruin my fun.
Right. Right. Don't make the ladies think they're going to get more than that tip of a pinky. I won't do that to you. But anyways, I was fascinated by it because you had posed a question. I wonder if there was somebody in history, what inspired that Dracula's character? Mm-hmm. And if you would have said vampire, I would have studied vampires. But you very specifically said Dracula. I was happy with myself because that only took a lot of patience in a few hours because I was just like, oh, neat. I felt like it answered all the questions that you had because it wasn't like it was just from one person. It literally is amalgamation of 4 different people.
Yeah.
And it's really cool when you look at the time and space in between the one influence, the 500 to 600 BCE to the next influence to the other influences. And it's really kind of interesting to see how Stoker, literally just pulls this all together. It's just, it's interesting. And then werewolves, I actually, I remember reading one story. I think it was about Beowulf.
Okay.
A long time ago. And I was just like, yeah, werewolves have been around a while, but just knowing how far back it actually goes.
I mean, you might consider Grendel to have been a werewolf.
I didn't find that on the list of historical stuff.
Yeah, so Beowulf is just a dude.
Yeah.
But one of the monsters he fights is called Grendel.
Right.
And he might have been a werewolf, something like you could say that he was a werewolf.
Right.
He's just a monster of some sort, and they never really describe exactly what he's like.
Well, you have it, and we'll have to get into werewolves again. I'll have to do a little bit more research because you bring up a good point about lycanthropy. Mm-hmm. And, there's that. Then you have the people who have that excessive body hair issue that a lot of people are like, oh, the wolf bowling. So we have lots of places to go back and look at things. Mm-hmm. But it's just interesting to me how we are so fucking narrow-minded. As humans, we're very narrow-minded. Oh, this isn't something that could have ever been in time before because I'm just now becoming aware of it. I literally see that no.
It happens all the time.
Vampires were invented in 1992 with
Anne Rice.
Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire. Yeah. No, ma'am. No, sir. There was no vampires before Twilight.
Gay. Anyway, fucking, you were talking about that hair condition.
Right.
It made me think of, there's a series of books called The Destroyer, and most people never read them, but
you did though, didn't you?
I read some of them.
Yeah.
They're kind of crazy. The very first book is called Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins,
Okay.
which was made into a movie.
Okay.
But in one of them, there's this dude from Louisiana, and he has that condition. Mm-hmm. And then he, for some reason, and he's like, I think he's a serial killer even before, but he has that condition, and he gets mixed up with this doctor who then gives him crazy gene modification therapy.
Okay.
And basically makes him into an actual werewolf.
Right.
Not exactly, because he can't shapeshift. He's just a fucking hairy dude with claws and shit.
Right.
But yeah, and then obviously Remo Williams goes and eviscerates him. But
Well, you know what's really good? Okay, since we're saying werewolves, and now we're at the point where a couple minutes left.
yeah.
So Jim Butcher, Dresden Files, reading Full Moon.
Yeah, that book is really cool.
It's
with the werewolf
really
stuff.
fucking cool, the details he goes into some of it, because as I'm going through the werewolves, I had to stop myself from squirreling off into loup-garous.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, I believe it's pronounced loup-garou.
But that's an actual thing. So it's really interesting. It's really cool. But anyways, so Bram Stoker had 4 points of influence between behavior, attitude, charismatic, physicality, everything.
Yeah.
Because even what's really interesting is this Vlad dude is built the same way as the Henry Irving was. They have a very similar build, similar hunch because they're taller. So it's really interesting, and so hopefully you can appreciate that I did some research for you.
That was cool.
Because I listened to what you said for once. Can you fucking believe it?
It had to happen eventually.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Fuck no. You guys have a good day.
Later.
Bye. Okay, everybody. That's all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you for stopping by to enjoy the conversation. We're glad you're here, and please share and share again and share some more. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We'll be having another chat and another cup soon. We'll talk to you then. Look forward to seeing you.